Texellent Heating and Cooling. Custom air service is our specialty. Heating and cooling and indoor air quality. Let's talk heating and cooling with your specialist, Terry McWilliams and Mike Landry.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us for the new Texellent Heating and Cooling podcast series. I'm going to be talking with Terry McWilliams. He's the owner of this incredible company, which was started back in 2018. One of the top guys when it comes to precision of application, design, and certainly indoor air quality technologies. He's got a degree in air conditioning technology, which is rare. You don't see that a lot. His degree specializes in this technology. He also has many certifications that are voluntary, but you got to go through a lot of pain to maintain these certifications, like NATE, which is a national nonprofit group that sets the quality standards for the entire industry, from installation, application procedures, like commercial refrigeration, heating and cooling support, and installation. So it covers all facets of this industry, both commercially, industrial, and residentially. He's also got another certification that he's not required to do, which is more what regulates the quality of the residential construction industry, called NCCER, which is the National Center for Construction Education and Research Center. And being involved as a builder for 22 years, being able, when you find a trade like an AC company, like this company, that seeks out and pays and invests their time to learn all these, how other industries are impacting his industry, you have a guy that is well-rounded and certainly deserves your business. Now we're going to talk about why this company versus all the other companies in the marketplace. Terry, thanks for your time, man.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
All right. Here's my first question. We talked about all your outstanding training, and one thing I left out is that you actually joined the union after you had all the residential applications licked, because you wanted to be able to do the big commercial and big industrial jobs. So you are well-rounded. You've got like 14 years in this industry, right?
Correct.
And you saw that the industry needed improvement. And what we're going to talk about now, and I'm trying to build a case as to why the consumer that's listening to this, or the builder, or the guy that owns the big plant, why your company over all the other companies out there, and you've been in business since 2018. So I think the best way to articulate that is, how do you hire your technicians?
So when we start the interview process, and we get a lot of candidates from a lot of different walks of life and different, experience levels, we do ask for a resume just to kind of gauge the experience level, but we don't base it totally on that. Like when I'm interviewing people, I'm looking at character and personality first and foremost. I want to see how well moldable they're going to be. I want to see where their headspace is. I want to see if they're going to work with the culture of Texellent, because we're not just a traditional money grab company or anything like that. We are here. We're here to stay. We're here to do what we need to do the best way possible for the client, and really just make the trade shine, because we don't want to be looked at like everybody else. We are high value. So we interview based on, character and personality. And experience doesn't always come through as the most important thing. I know.
Well, it seems like if I was going to jump in that seat, that I would just open the doors, hang my shingle, and go out there and recruit 5 of the top guys with 15 years of experience, and put them in the trucks, and everything's going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, quality guys out there with a lot of experience and do things well, but oftentimes more than that, you see a lot of guys that have just been doing it for a long time, and though they may have been doing it for 20 years, they could only have 5 years experience 4 times over, because they're just doing it the same way over and over again. This trade and this craft and the technology is changing constantly. I mean, it's evolving with new policies that come up, new procedures, new equipment, new technologies, everything. So if you don't evolve with it, you're going to get left behind. And if you're doing stuff the same old way, even though there's better practices that have come to light, then you're really not that useful. I mean, you can turn a wrench, but are you really effectively finding problems and implementing proper solutions.
It's the guy that's still riding a horse to work instead of driving a car.
They know enough to be dangerous.
But they've been doing it for 20 years.
And
you hear that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you're uniquely focused on taking younger, newer guys to the industry and developing them. And you're actually part of the San Jacinto board.
Yeah, so San Jacinto College has an HVAC program that they've had for several years, and we've been involved with it for several years. I'm the chairman of the board for their advisory committee, so we help guide in the curriculum and keep them also up to date, on policy changes and technology and everything to that nature. That way we can make sure that the students coming through the program are exposed to that stuff early on, and then we like to hire out of there as well because these guys are coming out with a little bit of experience just to get into the trade, but now they're moldable and you can teach them the right way from the beginning rather than someone who may have been taught a little untraditional and then just never learn their way out of it. These guys can still evolve in the trade and get better and better and better.
So that you're not trying to fix a bad habit, which is 10 times harder than just teaching them the right way and developing them from scratch.
Correct. Plus, going back to the personality thing, like you have to have that personality to want to evolve and change with it. And I've seen that it's much harder with, more seasoned, technicians because, they just think that they have it all figured out. And I'll be the first to tell you, I don't have it all figured out. I've got a lot of relevant experience and high quality experience, and we do extremely good work. But I'm constantly learning and evolving with this trade as well, which is why I dedicate myself to these, programs and certifications and continuing education like I do.
Okay. Now, on the side of your trucks, this is your slogan, Custom Air Services. What does that mean?
So Custom Air Service is ambiguous, of course, to mean customer service because we're, customer service centric and focused. But also it's a customized approach to what we do. So we're not just coming in with blinders on and, going to the first thing and, here you go, there you go, in and out. We look at every application like customized. We look at every application as if it's a unique property, which it is. It could have been built in the 1930s. It could have been built in, 2024.
Right.
And there's different construction practices all throughout. And there's different histories with it. This could be like the fourth air conditioner or the, first air conditioner.
Right.
And so we look at sizing of ductwork. We look at sizing of equipment. We look at, the history on it. We try to do a full-fledged approach to the building that is being serviced so that we can implement the proper solutions.
So as a consumer that's not involved with this industry, right? And for many remodelers out there that don't understand the complexity with what's been done to the property, how it's built, who's living in it, what improvements, did you turn your house into a plastic bag or is it still breathing like it was 40 years ago? So those things all have to be assessed. And one of the things we're going to talk about some stories on common replacement issues where people have existing equipment and then that stopped working eventually. And now you've got people pounding on your door. You want to get your AC back on, and some of the problems with poor practices in the field, not assessing the specific environment, the changes, who's living there, what the conditions were prior. You just get people running up in there. They jump in your attic and they say 3 ton. They replace it with the 3 ton and it doesn't work. It creates more problems. So one of the things that I love about your company is that you treat, just like you're saying, you treat every single property, no matter the age or the conditions, as if you're installing new equipment. And you're going to assess the existing duct sizes, how the ducts are run. You're going to look at the current equipment and how it's sized. And you're going to talk to the consumer about their existing conditions and what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. And if you get a bad install from another company, you'll come behind them and fix that. So the conditions, and I think your slogan is right, Custom Air Service, is you're not just running in and R-squaring equipment. You're assessing the condition because the technology is new, right? this high efficiency equipment, all these things evolve over the years and have significantly evolved and may impact the sizing and loading on that equipment for the existing conditions you have. You can't just go in and replace what's there. You have to look at the entire system and determine what's needed. And that's why a lot of people have problems with these companies that don't do that as a practice. And that's not common practice. Even in a lot of the remodel situations, the city does not require, when you're replacing the equipment, they do not require a load calculation on it like they do on a new house. And that's sad. They really should, but they don't.
Right.
So the more that the consumer understands what they should be getting, in terms of something that you do automatically and you train your guys to do, that's not being done, that would avoid these failures that we're going to talk about. Education is the key to success in any decision process. And I think what you've done here is miraculous. Your training programs are focused on better installation practices and better technical practices. What does that mean?
So better installation practices, without getting into the nitty gritty of, the exact process and the science behind it and everything. There are certain things that we do as far as like brazing with nitrogen and pulling proper vacuums and installing everything per manufacturer specifications versus just how it might look, to fit together. It's kind of that concept of, we don't follow directions. We're just, putting it in how it looks good. A lot of companies will just replace boxes, just like for like, maybe not replace your plenums, which could have years of buildup and biological growth
That's
inside.
what controls the airflow coming out of the conditioner,
this is
right?
what all of your air travels through. So, that also goes back to indoor air quality. Do you want to breathe what you've been breathing for, 20, 30 years? Or would you rather have something up there that's new and has a better R value and protects your investment? But
when you're dealing with like flex ducts and ductboard and stuff like that, do the manufacturers recommend that you replace the plenum when you update the entire system?
Yes, yeah, it's very good practice to do so.
I hardly ever see that get done.
Yeah, because it's cheaper, and a lot of the times, it comes down to price versus value and quality, and that's just something we're not willing to sacrifice on. We want to do it the right way.
Okay, let me ask you that: better record keeping and accountability. That's curious. Mm-hmm. How does that benefit the consumer?
So that benefits the consumer because when we, tell you what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, we want to be able to provide you data with, hey, it was done. And not only was it done, but it was done with the materials we said it was going to be done with. And here's your proof, and photographic evidence. And we, keep those records and we can attach them to your to your invoices so that you have for years to come to prove, the baseline of what you got. So it's just proof in the pudding, that you're getting what you're paying for.
Well, and one of the other things that to add to that, I think that people gain tremendous value. The technician that's on site that is assessing whether you can repair that system or replace that system or all the options that are available to you is actually the guy performing the repairs. There's this ugly little trend that I've seen develop in the last decade where they have salespeople that jump in little trucks and they come to your house and they sell you, and then they leave, and then somebody else shows up to do the installations. That is not a practice that you recommend, is it?
That's correct. Yeah, no, we have a completely different approach to, our service calls, our installations, everything. We developed the processes that we have developed in order to stay true to the customer service, slogan and mission, which is, it's not just a one-size-fits-all approach to your problem. If there's repair solutions, we offer repair solutions. If there's installations that need to be done, we give you all available options for that. And we don't just employ, white shirt salesmen. We have true mechanics, true technicians that can assess your system properly and implement proper solutions, which is another reason why we're a union company as well.
Okay. We're going to share some stories now that will put a finer point on these things for consumers to understand why your company versus all the rest. You're a diagnostics-driven company. You're going to find out whether that equipment is salvageable, whether it should be salvaged, and you're going to provide them the least to the most cost options for upgradability, but you're going to provide them with the best solution at the lowest cost possible to allow their system to get more life out of it. And that's what you do with every system, right? That's not, looking for home runs and then the person that's just challenged with money. You do this diagnostic process on every house. Everybody's treated the same. So here's some common issues that people have big problems with. Let's say we got a 1990s house is a good story where the system was replaced a year ago. It was original equipment from the day it was built. It finally failed. They had the system replaced by some company a year ago, and now they've got high humidity conditions for the past year, which is very uncomfortable. They've had a couple of blowers go out, and now they're facing a compressor having to be replaced. What causes that kind of situation?
So this story in particular, I remember very well. Customer called, humidity issues, recently replaced the system. They've had their service provider, the installing contractor, out several times. They told them there's no issue, everything was fine, but obviously it wasn't because they had multiple failures within a very short amount of time. So they lost confidence in them very quickly, called us up for a second opinion. We came in. What we found was this company actually installed a system that was too large for the house, because the customer's original complaint when they went to replace it was, oh, well, it never feels like it keeps up. So, and the contractor, of course, square footage and, all the rules of thumb, which aren't very accurate, said, okay, bigger's better. And then they threw in a 5-ton unit on what was a 3-ton system. Oh my God. And that 3-ton system, back in the 90s, we didn't have all of the, best practices neither. So it had, an undersized duct system for even the 3-ton. And now you just put on a 5-ton. You literally put on, a system that was 2 times too big. So of course they lost, a couple of blower motors and eventually a compressor in a very short amount of time. So,
and here's the thing. You're going to have to replace this equipment again because it's too big.
Right.
And the solution would have been probably upsizing that system a little bit or just increasing the duct size based on the circumstances for that particular house to address a problem with discomfort. But oversizing the equipment is absolutely guaranteed going to create multiple conditions that are not desirable to the customer. And one is going to be getting cold really quick and being clammy, creating a microclimate for microorganism growth because it's not pulling the moisture out of the air. Comfort's definitely out the window. And you're guaranteed going to have to replace that system because it's just too big, right? So that's one example of not having a company that comes in and listens to the problems, assesses the application and the current installation method, the sizing of the ducts, the new equipment. That would have never happened if this company was engaged to provide that replacement system originally. So next, these are the most common complaints in the marketplace. You can find them all over the internet. The 3 most common. So let's talk about refrigerant. So your system loses some refrigerant, right? What's the most common situation you run into where it's actually failing, right? They had somebody come in, add Freon or add refrigerant or replace the refrigerant and it's still not cooling.
Right. So one story in particular that comes to mind is a customer that they had another company come by and, of course, they found that it was low on refrigerant and they recharged the system. And then it still wasn't cooling and they lost confidence in them, called us to get a second opinion. So we came out and we found that the pressures were in fact low again and they were not performing like they were supposed to. So had us dig deeper at that point because we noticed a discrepancy in our readings. So what we found was the company that came prior actually did not add the proper refrigerant. So Now they not only took a problem that was pre-existing, but they created another problem on top of that. So the company had come back prior and was just basically trying to sell them a new system. Said, oh, well, now you've got a bad compressor too. So you had a leak, obviously, because, you're not supposed to lose refrigerant.
Right.
We recharged it with the wrong stuff, but you don't know about that yet.
Yeah.
And now it's not looking, correct. And we don't know what's going on, but, we're going to call it a compressor so we could just sell you a new system. And of course, that'll fix your problem, right? So we came in, did the diagnosis, found out that, it was improper blend of refrigerant. And we also went back a domino because we like to look at that original domino that, initiated the whole sequence. So we, performed an electronic leak search and found, the original issue, which was, they had a leak in their evaporator coil. And now we can give them a full-fledged solution. We'll replace your evaporator coil, get that leak fixed for you. We're going to take all this old contaminated refrigerant out of your system, evacuate it fully, clean out the lines, and then go back with the manufacturer specified refrigerant and amount of refrigerant to get you fixed up, permanently. And you didn't have to replace your entire system and,
Right.
Spend tens of thousands of dollars.
Exactly. And that is exactly why they don't make any assumptions. They go to every house and it's just like they're starting fresh. What do you have? Why is it? What are the problems? Let's find the solutions. Can we repair it? Does it need replacement? That is the way every AC company should work, but it's not the way it works in the industry. And it's important that you understand that. Capacitors. So the outside system is not kicking on, right? Which basically allows that system to create the cooling process. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, it's one of the main components that help the system do what it needs to do to cool your home.
And your
or
fan's
business.
not working out there, and you're wondering why it won't kick on, right? So what are some of the issues with some of the repairs of that can create issues?
So a number of things. The capacitor is probably one of the most common components that will go out on an outdoor AC unit. And so the parts that we use, first off, are high quality American-made parts that have a warranty that's 5 times longer than the ones that a lot of our competitors like to use, which are just cheap, forgive me, Chinese made capacitors that are good for maybe 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And they don't care if they get a call back, after that time and have to do the same repair over and over again. I don't want to see you again for a capacitor. I mean, even though, I'm all about, business and making money as well, like I want to do a quality repair. And next time I see you, it's, maybe in the grocery store, saying hi and thanking me for, the work we did, So, capacitors,
If you have a company that puts the wrong size on, what kind of issue does that create?
So that's another approach that we take to repairs. We make sure that the repairs that we go back with are the right parts for that unit. So we'll look at manufacturer's data on that system before just swapping out a like for like part. Because what we found before is someone may have already replaced that part before, and maybe they didn't put the right size in last time. And, or they, put like too small of one or too large of one. And what that can do is that can do damage over time to the windings of that compressor or that fan motor, which, now instead of a capacitor, you're looking at a major component failure. And so just taking that extra step to do that research and do the repair properly with quality parts is going to help, in the longevity of your system and, the performance of it overall.
Okay. So to kind of conclude this conversation and introduction, you service all major brands of air conditioning systems, right?
Correct.
Carrier, Train, all of that.
All the big
You
names.
love Armstrong.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you offer financing?
We do.
And one of the things that I think contribute that really, I guess, separate you guys out from the mainstream is your advanced education in indoor air quality applications and technologies. And one of the most impressive things that I realized, because I have an extensive background in this too, is when I was asking you about adaptive technologies, you had mentioned a couple of them that are widely sold that you don't have, that you think is snake oil. And we won't talk about what that is, but I found that profoundly impressive because I understand that technology and why you'd say that. But the other thing is I asked you what your minimum standard applications were for improving indoor air quality. And to my surprise, they were the mid-range, minimalistic technology. And I agree with you 100%. I expected you to give me the, what's happening now for 5,000. Nope. You're a practical guy. You understand the science. And man, I got to tell you, anybody that gets a chance to work with you is going to be well served, because indoor air quality, sick building syndrome is becoming more and more prevalent. Microtoxins that are gases that originate from mold are becoming problematic now. So your air conditioning system is not an air conditioning system. It is an environmental control system, just like they call it in the commercial world. It's the same thing in your house, except they call it air conditioning. It's environmental control now. When you take tape and caulk and you seal up that house, you have a microclimate. So I think out of all the people that I know in this town that provide this service, this is one of the best companies out there. It's Texellent Heating and Cooling. Terry McWilliams is the man I'm talking to right now. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to work with you today. This company was started in 2018. You can call them at 281-402-5100. 281-402-5100 for service. You can find them online at TexcellentACService.com. Terry, thanks for your time, brother.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Texellent Heating and Cooling Podcast. Located in the Deer Park area, contact Texellent today at 281-402-5100 or TexcellentACService.com.